Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Checkride Chat. Again, my name is Wally.
And I'm Jason.
Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a break from diving into the ACS. I know that can get dry and just boring, maybe. But anyway, we're
Not for me. Anyway, yeah.
Is that's your nightly entertainment,
No, it puts
right?
me to sleep at night.
Right.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. That's so. We're gonna take a break from that. Today we're going to answer some viewer questions. We've had quite a few viewers send us questions, and your coffee mugs are on the way. I ordered 24 coffee mugs, and I'm gonna have to order some more.
These
So,
questions, they're from nobody's on the West Coast, unless you want to count Alaska. But
Yeah.
it's they're peppered all over the country. It's interesting who chimes in.
Yeah, so we're gonna take 10 questions today, and we're going to do our best to answer them. So you want to go first, Jason, or you want to?
Yep. All right. John from Green Bay. In the oral portion, how deep do examiners usually go on weather minima for VFR flight? Do they ask for specific numbers from 91, 155, or just the general concepts? I'm going to ask, however it comes about through the oral, I want numbers.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to tell you, oh, what's Charlie airspace? I'm going to point to an airspace, and I'm going to give you an altitude, a point on the sectional, and I'm going to ask, what's your VFR weather minimums?
Yeah.
And cloud separation.
I do similar. I say, okay, we're flying along on the sectional. Here we are. What kind of airspace is this over here? It's Charlie. What are our VFR cloud separation requirements for Charlie airspace? Now, if the applicant is struggling a little bit, I don't have a problem whatsoever if they look it up. Now, I do expect that they can find where it is and get the answer fairly quickly. I mean, this is not a coffee break type question. That's something that you ought to be able to get to.
So, to answer the question, yeah, I look for numbers. That is the ultimate. That's the correlation. That is not a rote memory. That you have to know the numbers, but now you're correlating and applying to what airspace am I looking at.
Right.
And then just to reference, this is not an open book test. You can look things up, but you cannot look everything up.
Right.
I always try to close with, you can't just pull over on the side of the road. Hey, let me look that up.
Yeah.
Certain things need to come right off the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of leeway with that, but if you look everything up, the oral's going to take eight hours.
Which that oral is going to be ended before that time frame hits.
Yeah.
Either way. All right, Wally, want the next one?
All right, and this comes from Naomi in Denver, Colorado. She says, you mentioned steep turns in the maneuvers section. What bank angle is acceptable on the Checkride, and how strictly do you enforce staying within plus or minus 100 feet of the altitude? First of all, here's my thing on steep turns is I will, let's say we're talking about a private pilot. Steep turn is 45 degrees. A 30-degree turn is not a steep turn. So or a 30-degree bank is what I'm saying, is not a steep turn. So I say, okay, let's do a steep turn, and the applicant goes into 45 degrees. They start losing altitude. They take out the bank, and all of a sudden we do 90% of the maneuver at 30 degrees. Well, in my book, we haven't done a steep turn. A steep turn is defined as 45 degrees. So, and a lot of applicants struggle with interpreting the attitude indicator to find where 45 degrees
I did a
is.
private the other day, and you got to give it to him. He did really well, but it was a 60-degree bank because he thought the 60 was the 45.
Right.
And I said, nope, we're going to do that one again.
Yeah.
And I even asked him, I queried him, like, is that harder than you normally remember? He's like, yeah. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Because he had a brain fart. It
Yeah.
is, but yeah, so it's 45 degrees, commercials 50, right? I will also, just on that term, I will actually look, not just outside, I'll look at the applicant to see where they're looking.
Right.
That is a big one. So
Right.
a lot, privates not so much, but commercials, you just most likely came out of instrument training.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be glued to your G1000, your 6-pack, whatever you're flying. That is not what you should be doing. It is a visual maneuver. Go find your scratch on the glass, your dead bug, whatever it might be, but don't look inside because that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
And to you CFIs, I know when I was instructing a lot, if I had a student who was struggling with steep turns,
cover up the instruments.
I just cover up the instruments and they nail it.
I'm telling you, it's easier. You got to trust yourself and you just got to go do it.
Yeah.
So
find what it looks like. I mean, obviously you got to cross check every once in a while, get inside and look at that attitude indicator and all your altimeter and all that. But what tolerance on 100 feet?
I was going to say the second half of the questions. How strictly do you enforce staying within the plus or minus 100?
Very strictly. Now, there is a little bit of wiggle room within the ACS.
Discretion.
Yeah, and so if you get down, 101 feet low and immediately add some power and get the pitch back up and get to within the 100 feet, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but going from plus 100 to minus 100 to plus 100, going up, down, up, down, up, down, making a parabola, a sine curve as you're going around a steep turn, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
But prompt corrective action, and my advice on any maneuver you do, start speaking, start talking out loud.
Yeah.
Get us in your head. I don't know what's going on in your head. To steal a united phrase, shared mental model. Start verbalizing, correcting, and just it goes a long, long way to help with us out, to help with anything on that matter. It keeps your scan going by talking. So what else?
Yeah.
Next.
Okay.
Dave from Sanford, I'm assuming Florida. Dave from Sanford, Florida. For the emergency procedures task, what is the most common emergency scenario DPEs throw at you during the oral? I would say that maybe, or get that. That's a very open-ended question. I would say that could just. I think we've talked about it before on an episode. I might make it kind of personal when just during the intros. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to college? I might try to simulate something along more of a personal nature.
Yeah.
It more organic on that. So during the oral, I'll sometimes let them walk me through a run up. Why? Not that that's an emergency, but it sparks that conversation.
Yeah.
But I'll try to find some common ground to make it more than just a rote answer. Yeah,
and for me, it's going to be, we're going to talk. It's probably going to be a systems failure, and hint. I've had a total electrical failure in my Saratoga, and it was a handful. And so every one of my check rides, we're going to talk about a total electrical failure, and how are you going to handle it? Is it an emergency? Is it not an emergency? And there's some room for interpretation on that, depending on your experience level and the weather, obviously. And different type airplanes. If you got a retractable gear airplane,
are you going to squawk 7700?
Yeah, with your solar powered transponder,
with your total electrical failure.
Yeah,
that's where it's slow down and listen to the scenario.
Yeah,
and how are you possibly going to squawk or mayday anything?
Right,
because it ain't working.
One thing that happens in an electrical failure that nobody ever thinks of is that you're going to lose your intercom. So that headset is doing you no good. And so the headset is probably going to come off. And so I ask a lot of applicants, and I love it when the CFIs are there for the debrief. I say, Mr. CFI, have you ever gone out in the practice area with your students and said, hey, let's take the headsets off and just talk? And
very loudly.
Yeah, nobody, I can't remember anybody who has ever said, yeah, I've done that. Okay, how... And maybe in a scenario where you just lose the intercom, how do we talk using a hand mic? And do we have a speaker? Do we even have a hand mic in the airplane?
A lot of people take their hand mics out. So that goes to your correlation aspect. System failure, it might be one of the further questions, but you have an electrical failure, meaning you're now doing a flapless landing.
Right.
Right. It's
in a Cessna.
In a Cessna.
Right.
That's the type of things. You lose your electrics. What else are you gonna lose?
Right.
Right. There's a reason on the Cessna checklist before you hit the ground or land off field, they tell you to put the flaps down before you turn off your master.
Yes.
There is a reason for that. So
yes.
These are the kind of things we can talk through in the oral. And again, a lot of these questions, quite like that one specifically, that's hangar talk that I've talked about that a lot before. Go talk to your friends. What would you do here? What would you do this? This happened to you. What did you do?
Yeah.
The fact that people are just talking about it, that's a great question. If and when, it's not an if, it's when something bad happens to you, the fact that you've just briefly discussed it, I think goes a long way for what the result is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got the next.
Okay, where are we? We are Eric from Huntsville, Texas, right up the road. How much detail do you expect on weight and balance calculations? Do I need to do a full problem from scratch, or is explaining the process enough? No, explaining the process is not enough.
I add these numbers and I subtract another number and we're legal.
Yeah.
No.
We've got to do the full thing. We are required to give you an out of balance scenario as well. So I'll ask, what do we weigh today? Okay, and I'm gonna give you a situation where we're too heavy, or maybe not too heavy, but we're we've got a whole bunch of weight causing. I'll look at where your CG is. And so how are we going to fix that? What are we going to do? And everybody's default I won't say everybody's, but a lot of people's default answer
not going to go
is we can't go.
Yes, you will, because we have to go fly.
Right. So what can we do? Can we move things around? Do we need to take 52 gallons on this hour and a half?
So that's a whole other subject, but I kind of do the same thing. We're required to ask. I've actually had this a handful of times. Oh yeah, we're good to go. And all they have is the weight and balance calculation. But there's no CG envelope accompanying the weight and balance calculation. And I'm like, how do you know?
Right.
Well, we're underweight. How do you know? So then they'll go to their iPad or they'll pull out the sheet of paper, they'll put it on the CG. I'm like, all right, now we know where we are. So then I'll just put little dots on the CG envelope and I'll say, what kind of CG is that? I'll just point to it.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of people, they'll mix up forward and aft CG. That leads into aerodynamics. What can we expect with a forward CG? What can we expect with an aft CG?
Yes.
Characteristics on both. So a lot of these, you can see how this, by asking a very simple weight and balance question or a scenario, you've checked multiple other boxes in the ACS.
Yeah, and this is not just a little airplane thing. I think we were going from LA to Honolulu just about 2-3 days ago. And we were weight restricted. We could not fill every seat, and so we're trying to come up with ways to get people on board the airplane. And so you're looking at wind to see if we can use a wind component to get better performance. So this is not something that as a private pilot you learn it. You
this
pass
isn't
the
just
test,
a little airplane.
it.
Keep in mind that Honolulu or LA Honolulu, that's a 777.
Yeah.
On 2 days ago, was it Tuesday? I just flew Bogota, Houston.
Yeah.
We were right up against zero fuel weight.
Yeah.
It's a 757. Why? There's a multitude of factors. Bogota's 8,300 feet in elevation. You lose quite a bit of, even the mighty 75.
Yeah.
Right. And so luckily, something didn't show, and we were under. We got all the standbys on. But these weight and balance scenarios, very common. Tangent back 20 years ago on the RJ, we would constantly 2 people from the front need to go to the back. 2 people from the back need to come to the front.
Yeah.
It was just shifting CGs.
Yeah.
So knowing how to do this and why you're doing it, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Luckily, at the airline, we're going off on a tangent a little bit, but we do have load planners who kind of do about 95% of that work for us. But sometimes the last minute, we're trying to figure out how to solve the problem as well.
Yeah, as captains, it's big picture, right?
Yeah.
You need to understand why they're doing things.
Yeah.
What it is, but the big picture, you still have to be legal.
Right.
And within your weight and balance envelope. All right, good. Next.
Yeah. Okay.
Alan from El Paso. In the navigation section, do examiners still ask about pilotage and dead reckoning, even though most people use GPS now? There's these little things, GPS. What was that 2 questions ago? Total electrical failure. I'm going to say you need to know how to use pilotage and dead reckoning.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to ask that.
And if you watched the last week's episode, we talked about the cross country planning portion in the ACS, and we went into depth about what makes good checkpoints and all that kind of stuff. But absolutely, that is part of pilotage and dead reckoning for private and commercial.
So one thing about anything on an airplane, anything in an airplane, everything is electrical and or mechanical. Meaning everything in that airplane can absolutely fail.
Yeah.
So just because you have all these gee whiz bang things, it's nice to know where you are and what you are. Yeah. I will tangent on that. I'm assuming it. This is not a put down or anything. I think the younger generation uses GPS for everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
So that going from the house to the store, maybe that's an extreme. But knowing the names of the roads.
Yeah.
Knowing what as stupid as what I'm about to say sounds, knowing what is east of here, what is north of here. Become familiar with your local area. Know what landmarks are where. Know what roads are where. Yeah. Because it's the big, when it comes to cross country, hell, you could take off out of Conroe, and not that you would, because it would stick you right through Dallas, Bravo, but you could take I-40, you could take 59. Let's pick 59. You can take 59 for 1,000 miles, and you could literally IFR, I follow roads. Yeah. But you would have to know what it kind of looks like and things like that. So become familiar with your area, the names of the roads and things like that.
One thing I used to do with my students when I was doing a lot of instructing is, wherever we happen to be, I'd say, what do you think the general heading would be to go to Atlanta from here? Oh, about 090. And we'd look it up. 082. Okay, yeah, you're in the ballpark. What do you think?
Ballpark is good.
What would our general heading to Seattle be? Oh, okay, 310. Yeah, just to get an idea of, and then start correlating those numbers. I think that helps too.
And I'll specify. We'll close on this. What I'm getting at, being familiar, I will often say, take me to Navasota VOR, take me to DayZeta, take me to Leona. And they'll be typing it. Keep in mind, they are students in this area.
Yeah.
They'll type it in their iPad because they don't know kind of which way Leona is. They don't know which way College Station is.
Right.
Do you see where I'm going to that? That's become, I'm not saying memorize roads. What I am saying is know maybe a 200-mile perimeter, the naves, the airports, the cities, because controllers are going to potentially tell you, go to this. They're going to assume you know kind of where to find it.
Yeah. I a scenario I give, I'll say to the student or the applicant, I'll say, hey, look, I'm having, and we're not in an airplane, but we're going to drive to this place. I'll say, hey, I'm having I have a family emergency. I need to get to this address in Galveston, Texas, and I don't have a car. Could you take me there? and they'll say, yeah, I could take you there. I said, well, tell me the process that we're going to do. He says, well, we're going to go jump in the car. I'm going to get to Interstate 45, and I'm going to turn south, and I'm going to aim towards Galveston. And on the way down there, then we'll work out the details of where we need to go in 1 hour when we get to Galveston. Same kind of thing. Hey, let's turn the airplane towards Austin. Okay, well, it's from here, it's west, about 270. Now we're in the ballpark.
That's a good one. I would say that ballpark, know the ballpark of where your local cities are, and your local nav aids. That will go tenfold down the road.
Yeah. Okay, this Next comes from Larry from Boston. What's the best way to prepare for lost procedures questions? Any tips on how to verbally walk through diverting to an alternate airport?
We kind of just answered that a little bit.
Yeah. This is, as we in the last week's episode we talked about, first of all, probably the best way to do it is when you plan your cross country, don't plan from here to 400 miles. Plan from here to 60 miles away to an airport, 60 miles away to another airport, 50 miles away to another airport. Kind of go from airport to airport might be the best way. So in the back of your mind, you already have a plan. I mean, when I'm flying a big jet out to Honolulu, I'm thinking, we just took off from Houston, I'm going to Austin. Okay, now maybe I'm going to El Paso. Now I'm going to Phoenix. Now I'm going to LA. All right, now I'm over the water.
We just leaving Bogota the other night, the departure briefing, we were talking, if something happens here, okay, fine, Bogota. The second we breach that range or over the mountains, no way are we coming back to Bogota. We're going to go to Panama. After Panama, the next thing up is probably Costa Rica. If we're over the Gulf or the Yucatan, Cancun's perfect, and then our next stop is honestly Houston.
Right.
So we do it all day, every day. Yeah. Just contingencies. Where am I going to go? And as for the loss procedures, with the 5 C's, I think from climb, conserve, communicate, confess, comply.
Right.
Keep those in the back of your head. A big thing is the confess. It's I'm lost.
Yeah.
Comply. That's listen to ATC instructions. How would we find out where we are? Again, you should have known where you kind of should have been. 2 VORs. Let's do cross radials. X marks the spot.
Yeah.
So always being situationally aware. I would say a good trait of any pilot is being situationally aware, not just zoning out. I'm going east. That's maybe not a good thing. Have contingencies and be ready for things that'll happen.
Yeah, and confess is important. I guarantee you there is not an air traffic controller in the United States of America that if the controller feels that you are really in trouble and really lost, they are going to just do whatever they can for you. We've got really good controllers. They're gonna work with you.
Mm-hmm. 7. Michael from French Lick.
French Lick, Indiana.
Michael from French Lick, Indiana. You talked about slow flight. Do DPEs usually want it done with flaps or configured clean? And do they care about heading tolerance more than altitude? I care about both heading and altitude.
Absolutely.
And B, I'm more of I'll do it dirty. I like kind of the landing configuration. And it's a good question, Michael. When I do the check rides up in the Denver area, those guys actually ask, how do you want it?
Yes.
Because but in the Houston area, I, like many people, assume it's always been done dirty configuration.
Yeah.
So that's a very new thing, I guess, to me also. I will have you do flaps and gear if you're in a multi, or flaps 30 in any single or full or whatever you want to call it, whatever plane you're in. But you're simulating going slow. When are you slow? It's in a pattern. In a pattern, this is kind of what you're going to do. Yeah. So I would do flaps out and gear out for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. if they ask, and you're exactly right. I mean, very seldom do they ask down here, but occasionally they'll ask if I want it clean or dirty.
So it's funny, the guys in Denver that they've asked me, I've now in Houston, the Houston area, I will now specify I want slow flight, this, and this.
Yeah.
So I'll tell them now based on just very recent experience, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next we got Ryan from DC. For the systems questions, how detailed do they get on the electrical system or magnetos? Is knowing the basic flow enough, or do they want troubleshooting steps? You know, I want you to understand the system, and I joke with a lot of applicants. I say, if I ever get to be king of the world, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to eliminate the phrase mag check. We're not going to use magneto check anymore. We're going to call it ignition system check. Because when you're doing a mag check, you're checking a whole lot more than the magnetos. You would assume by the name magneto check that if you do the magneto check and things are going, it doesn't go well, you'd think you've got a magneto problem. But as a flight school owner dealing with airplanes, when someone comes in and has a bad magneto check, what is usually the problem?
It's a bad spark plug.
Yeah, probably.
It's a fouled plug.
It's a dirty spark plug, and that can be fixed.
Immediate question is, did you burn it off?
Right.
And a lot of the time they will have that queried, puzzled look. What are you talking about?
Right.
So that is a much more common occurrence on a carbureted engine than a fuel-injected engine. I will also almost guarantee it's the bottom plugs.
Yeah.
Almost guarantee it's the bottom plugs. And how do spark plugs get fouled? See, this is all scenario based again, but they're not leaning.
Yeah.
So the mixture it's too rich, and I'll say that very, very quickly. A lot of checklists now are going. This is a very quick tangent. They're going from mixture full rich to mixture best power. Why? Because you go mixtures full rich in Denver, bad things are probably going to happen.
Yes.
So that's where thinking outside the box. I mean, hell, you lean above, in Houston, everybody leans above 3,000 feet. Okay. So you lean above 3,000 feet. Well, in Denver, 3,000 feet is negative 2,000.
Right.
You're going to take off leaned.
Yeah.
People from here down in Texas, they can't seem to fathom that.
Yeah.
And again, it's the application of how do we perform and how do we do. They call it the Denver lean up there.
Yeah.
They do full power run ups to check. That's just they'll lean it during the run up. Right before they'll look for the peak, and they'll spin it 2 in and they leave it.
Yeah.
And that's the new rich, I guess you could say.
Right. Or best power.
And so that's a common one.
As far as the electrical system, I'm going to say, okay, if we, a lot of times we could have an alternator failure, which is not an electrical failure yet. And I use the example of our telephones. We all have a cell phone in our pocket, and if it's not plugged in, that cell phone is experiencing an alternator failure. Okay, it is not being charged. Think of the alternator as a charger, basically. Is your cell phone still working? Well, it probably is. Now, 18 hours from now, will it be working? Probably not.
Quick, your airplane battery does not last 18 hours.
Yeah. Don't take that the wrong way. So, I want to say, okay, we've just lost the alternator. Is this an emergency? How are we going to handle an alternator failure? How is an alternator failure going to present itself on the panel? Do we have a light that says alternator failure? Most likely, no. We do have a light that probably most airplanes says low voltage. Well, why does an alternator failure present itself as a low voltage? Well,
it's not pushing the voltage. It's not pushing the amps.
Yeah, and a 12-volt system has a 14-volt alternator. So if we're only showing 12 volts. Well, we're probably using the battery. So I'm passionate about the alternator or the electrical system failure. My situation was a total electrical system failure because, if I look at the electrical system, the checklist in a Piper Saratoga, nowhere in there does it say you're going to have to get the gear down using the alternate method. It's not in there. It doesn't say it. It kind of ought to, I think.
Correct. We can. I'll say it's take Sully, the Hudson, the Miracle on the Hudson.
Yeah.
Nobody trained for that.
Right.
Nobody. But things can happen.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what would you do here? What did you do, Wally? What would you do differently?
Yeah.
That's a hanger talk. That's a debrief item. That is get ahead of the game by talking to other pilots about just random stuff.
That's why the hangar talk you call it, or the flight school
Shop
lobby talk when the weather's bad, it's windy, or when you get in from your flight, don't just go home. Hang around and talk with the other pilots and say, hey, I landed the other day and we blew a nose tire, and this is what it felt like. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew the airplane was shaking. Well, guess what? Now you've just given your buddy a tool.
It's called
next
experience.
Time, yeah. Maybe you didn't have it. I mean, the first time I blew a tire on takeoff, I didn't know what it was. I just knew we took off. We heard a pop, and then I thought, wow, what was that? I'm looking around at everything. It was like a Cessna 414 or something like it, a twin Cessna. And we landed, and the nose wheel came down, and all of a sudden the light bulb in my head went off. Like, oh, that's what that was.
Yep.
So I anytime I had the opportunity to tell people about that, I did.
So tires, check your tire pressure.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Right.
It's easier to maneuver on correct tire pressure, and it's actually the most common reason for it. Definitely nose wheel failures, nose wheel flats, is low pressure, because you'll make a sharp turn and it'll just roll, and it'll come off the bead, and because you didn't take 5 minutes to check the pressure, especially when the temperature fluctuates, you're not gonna pay for it, but what you didn't take 5 minutes to do literally just cost you probably an hour.
Yeah.
So there's a little plug on checking your tire pressures. Number 9, what was the hardest part of your flight training? I'd say that's a very open-ended question.
Let me jump on that one. I will say that, and I'll give you 2 answers. For me, the written test, the knowledge tests. I failed my private the first time, passed it the second time. I failed my instrument twice, passed it the third time. I failed my commercial once, passed it the second time.
The written test?
The writtens. So I have passed three tests, and I'm 3 for 7. I'm less than 50%. Then you know what I did? I figured out how to study for them, and then I started making 90s. If you go back and look at my knowledge test scores, I never made in the 80s. I either made in the 70s. Well, and some I made the 60s. The ones I passed were in the 70s. And then I started making the 90s. And back in my day, this was back when the Earth was still cooling, a long time ago. You didn't get instant test results. They take your written, which was paper, and put it in an envelope, and it would get mailed to Oklahoma City.
Oh, no way.
And about a month later, you'd get a letter in the mail.
Oh, wow.
So you take your private pilot knowledge test, written test, and you go home and you go, well, geez, do I keep studying, or do I move on to instrument, or what? So it was horrible.
All right, I'll peg on that. So no, I didn't have to mail anything. I didn't go to school with Orville and Wilbur.
Yeah.
But no, that it brings up a good point. So you finish, you hit submit, or I haven't taken a written test in a while, but just that 5-minute walk, waiting for them to hand you how'd I do? Yeah. That was a little, that was brutal, kind of waiting for that. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer.
But
there's more experiences of that. I thought that was hard.
What I learned is from then on out, because what I did is, I would have the questions and I would read the question and I would read and another thing, back in my day, we had 4 choices. So if you were guessing, you had a 25% choice of getting, you got a 33%. So you guys got it easy now. No. But what I would do is I would look at all the answers and I would try to pick the right one. Then when I finally figured out how to take the test, is you get the question, you highlight the right answer, you never even look at the wrong answer. So
that's how Shepherd Air does it.
It was Shepherd Air Light 40 years ago. After that, I would say the hardest rating I got was by far CFI. Because there's a lot of stuff.
They could ask literally anything.
Yeah, and there's so much of the CFI stuff that you get for the Checkride that I hate to say this, but it doesn't have to do with flying. It has to do with teaching. So it wasn't just a matter of how to fly an airplane. It was how to teach, and that was new stuff to me.
So yeah. All right, we'll close. How long is this is an easy one. How long is the typical private pilot Checkride oral these days? I've heard anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on the DPE. I would say that's accurate. 3, that's pushing it.
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, one of the very first episodes I think we did, How to Make Your DPE Happy. Every single Checkride starts with an audit. That's a really nice thing about 141 schools. They present the certificate. We look for their endorsements, but we don't have to audit a logbook because that's already been done.
Right.
But every single Checkride, I would say, is at least the beginning part is 15 to 20 minutes of license registration, medicals, writtens, making sure you meet the specifications. And then from there, I will tell them it's typically about an hour and a half to 2 hour oral. Yeah. I will also say if you start breaching that 2 hour marker, you're telling me something without telling me something.
Yeah.
So I know I know what works and I know where we should be falling.
Yeah.
So if you take away the audit, I would say a typical oral is approximately 2 hours. Yeah. For a private instrument commercial. Add-ons, much less. I would say add-ons, the oral is probably an hour.
Yeah.
And then most flights are 1.5 to 2.
Yeah.
And that completely depends on airspace.
Absolutely.
If you're at a Class Echo airport and it's a sleepy town, I would say you can do a commercial Checkride, a private Checkride, even an instrument if there's approaches there. I would say you can accomplish that between 1 and 1.5.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're simply not waiting 20 to 30 minutes to take off.
Right.
So I'd say an hour and a half to 2 hour on the oral is a good number, and typically about an hour and a half flight. If it's super busy, that's going to push to like a 2 hour flight. So that's where the DPEs will block off typically 4 to 5 hours for a particular Checkride.
I do mine in 4 hour blocks, and that's super optimistic. I do 8 and 12 usually, and that 12 o'clock Checkride usually never happens at 12 o'clock, and I'm sorry to that applicant, but the first person has a lot to do with the second.
It's true,
person.
And if you're nailing the questions, that is an hour and a half oral, and again, here I think we've talked about this too. I know we've talked about this. You're done with your oral, go pre-flight. I know it does not take you an hour to pre-flight an airplane. And when you go out to the airplane, have your water, have your bag, have your hood or view limiting device. Go to the bathroom. Don't go, okay, I'll be right back. And the FBO is a 5-minute walk.
Yeah.
There's 10 to 15 minutes doing nothing while we're just twiddling our thumbs. So, yeah, that first Checkride directly impacts the second Checkride.
My record is 4 times back to the FBO. It was go back to get some oil, then come back out, then go back to wash your hands, then come back out, then go to get your flight bag that you forgot, and then, I better go to the restroom. Okay, so.
It all adds up. So I'm not saying shortcut. I'm not saying delete anything. What I am saying is kind of think before you do and be efficient, because you're affecting everybody down the line at that point.
And the other thing that you can do to help expedite the process, and we talked about this in one of the earlier episodes, is decode the knowledge test, the deficiencies. Because if you just present me with the knowledge test report, and and again, I was that guy who was making a 71 on my written test, so we had a lot of stuff to go over. But obviously the lower the grade, there's more stuff to go over. Now, having said that, again, when I look at the subject areas that were missed on the knowledge test, more than likely 60 to 70% of them are already going to be covered in my
Correct.
generic oral. Like you miss sectional chart or performance. Well, we're going to talk about performance, so I don't really have to add anything to do that. But if it's not decoded, now I have to go in and say, okay, what is code? Whatever.
It's just, so there's these decoders online for the ACS and still the PTS. You just type your codes in, and it's just a sheet of paper, and just print it out. Just bring that to your oral, and that'll shave, I would say, a solid 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the subjects, we're not hunting. I'm not flipping pages, doing an alphanumeric code, looking for stuff.
Right.
I was going to say something and I totally forgot, so it couldn't have been that important. But those are 10 questions. Keep them coming. You can email us, Wally at Checkride Chat. That's this kid. And then Jason at checkridechat.com is me. So keep them coming and we will answer. And if we use your questions, so here goes 10 mugs.
Yeah, and that last one came from Alaska. Valerie from Wasilla, Alaska.
Wasilla.
Yeah, so I got to go to UPS the next couple of days and box these things up and send them out. We want to send them out. We got lots of them. We'll get more. We'll keep them coming. So keep the questions coming, and do us a favor. Hit subscribe. If you're watching this video, go down and hit subscribe.
At YouTube, right?
Yeah, on YouTube. And if you're watching these as shorts on TikTok or whatever platform, come over to YouTube and hit subscribe
for the full episode.
Yeah, and tell your friends about us. And I think we're
just people. Just let us know we're just human.
Yeah. And a lot of this stuff we will put on our website. If we can get that chart of the tolerances for the ACS, we'll put it on our website, checkridechat.com. Just go to it and you can get a copy of it. Just download it.
Cool. Good.
All right, yeah.
All right, boys and girls. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
See ya.